So I'd like to invite Peter for any closing remarks. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Fred, for inviting me for those closing remarks. I think I can say we have heard a lot of dynamic exchanges and insightful commentary today. I think also I can say that the passion which I felt today in this room is real, and the expertise you have shared will help all of us in tackling some of the greatest challenges that we are confronting, and also hopefully to maximize the potential of business to work together with governments, but with all other stakeholders of the society, to bring about a positive and lasting development, or lest we were saying a sustainable development for Africa. In my mind, today's forum clearly framed creating shared value as a tool that should help us to realize the African opportunity, as it was called. One of creating shared value's most valuable elements is its capacity for innovation, which allows companies to push their boundaries by developing scalable models that deliver business value as well as social benefits. And I put the emphasis on scalable. I think this makes all the difference. But creating shared value is also about a return to a basic, value-led set of principles of engagement, bringing business back into the heart of society, and based on respect that remind us of who we serve. If today helps bring about a change in the way we work together that takes us back to these basic value-based behaviors, to this, what has been mentioned, necessary long-term versus a short-term approach, to this conscious effort to address social needs together, then that is a very good thing, and it would be worthwhile to spend a whole day here in Abidjan. Going back to this morning, we set out 3 key takeaways for today, if you remember. The first was that creating shared value is a powerful business concept that plays an important role in long-term business success and sustainable development. And the second was creating shared value is tangible and helps improve the lives of real people in concrete ways. And lastly, linking creating shared value and the SDGs can unleash creative multi-stakeholder action and deliver innovative approaches that are good both for business and society. I've taken some notes during this day on the first issue on building strong economics and communities in Africa. And I think we pointed out during this discussion the importance of political stability. If there's anything that Africa needs for a long-term sustainable development, it is political stability. Yes, as my CEO said, governments put the frame, allows us, please, the private sector and the civil society to make the painting. We talked about the importance about regional markets and about trade. And there was also a clear call to promote fair and independent institutions. Somebody was saying we have to Africanize those institutions back that can engage all sectors of society. At the Sharing the African Perspective on Health and Nutrition Security, there was a phrase that at least had a major impact on me, and that was saying that food is necessary for nutrition, but it is not enough. With food, we achieve a caloric coverage. With nutrition, we are opening the door to health. There was a discussion of the burden of the double malnutrition, which is also affecting now Africa. And this burden of double malnutrition is not only a medical issue, it is, and is increasingly so, a social issue, a social burden. And there was a lot of discussion about the importance of the very first days for the future generation of Africa. During the Nestlé CSV prize ceremony, we celebrated 2 African social entrepreneurships, and we gave the prize to AgroHub, which was a very emotional moment. But I think more important to that was that you could see entrepreneurship applying, creating shared value. And you can see, although it was still small, how then afterwards, the winners from the years before, how they have been able to scale up and to make it therefore more impactful. In increasing the resilience of the farmers, I think for me that came through was it is the local institutions, it's a social framework, it is the values of the local cooperatives that has to be strengthened. There was another nice phrase which said price volatility is the worst form of climate change that is affecting the life of the farmers. And I must say, the remarks about GMO, which is not so much that the GMOs are really controversial. The controversy comes from who is the owner of the GMOs. And if the ownership would be more where it should be, namely in the public sector, perhaps we would avoid a lot of controversial about GMOs. And I think there was also this question about, yes, important is the creation of shared value, but it was also mentioned very clearly, do something about that those values are being retained in Africa for the African population. And finally, we had this, I would say, inspiring discussion with the panel about creating shared value per se, the discussion about the theory, the intellectual background to it, and then afterwards the practical part. There was a nice phrase saying, you don't solve poverty with giveaways. We fully agree to that. That's exactly why creating shared value has been created. We believe that it is only inclusive, sustainable economic development that will improve the poverty level in Africa. And if anything was necessary to show you how positive creating shared value can be vis-à-vis charity, I think it was the last anecdote that Fred gave us. From 40,000 Swiss francs charity to 1 million of creating shared value. That's exactly the example that we needed, Fred, in order to show the power of this concept of creating shared value. I have not forgotten the statesmanlike speech of our friend Kofi Annan. And I took away from his speech that business cannot succeed where government fails. And he also said that in order to have peace, you need development. And in order to have development, you need peace. And again, I think the story of Africa is a good testimony for these statements. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, both here in the room, but also our more than 5,000 people who have been accompanying us today in this Creating Shared Value Forum here in Abidjan. I want to thank all the government officials. We had an outstanding participation, as I mentioned in the morning, from ministers from 3 countries here. I want to thank our excellent panelists for taking the time to share their knowledge and insight with us. Today's session was definitely enriched by the active participation of you, the audience, both here and again in the internet. And last but not least, I want to thank our outstanding moderator, Fred Swonica, for skillfully guiding us through a jam-packed day. So Fred, may I ask you now to formally close the proceedings for us. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you.
Well, I have nothing left to say except thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to our host, Nestlé, Mr. Peter Brabeck, and Paul Wilke, the CEO. And to everyone in the room who's here today and who followed by webcast, this wouldn't have been such an interesting day without all of your contributions. So thank you again for joining us. And you're welcome to join us on the cocktail outside in the lobby. Thank you.